All right, let's do something advanced with reduce. We have a numbers array. What we want in return is an object that tells us the max value should be 5, the min value should be 1, the average should be, let's see, 3, the range is biggest number minus smallest number, so it should be 4. How can we do all this with just reduce? Well, it's actually possible. Let's do const obj is equal to numbers AR dot reduce, accumulator, init value. Now, here's the different part. Our second argument will be an object, but won't be an empty one. It will have some properties preloaded. So let's say max, currently 0, min, currently 0. And I'll explain why I preloaded these soon. Okay? Average, 0, range, 0. Okay? So yes, as the second argument, you can preload any property values. Okay? All right, so we have that. Our return arrow, curly braces. Okay, as we're looping, how do we check for max and min? Well, since we preloaded this, our ACK, our initial value, already has this property. So we can access it. We can say ACK.max, and we're going to assign it using a ternary operator, which helps a lot that we talked about last video. Let's see. So ACK.max, what is it going to be equal to? Well, let's check. If init is greater than ACK.max, if that's true, the new value will be the init. And if not, it will be ACK.max. Okay. So in the first loop, ACK.max is 0. It's going to compare that with init, which is 1. 1 is greater than 0, so its value is now init. Okay. Now, for the min, we can do the same thing. Instead, we're just going to check if init is smaller than ACK.min. And if it is, we're going to use init. And if not, we're going to use ACK.min. And then don't forget, why do we have an error? Because you have to return the object that you're working on. So return, what's the object? ACK. Then console.log, obj. Okay. So ACK, max is 5, but min is 0. It should be 1. Let's think about this. Why is that? Well, because we preloaded our min value with 0, right? So right here, ACK.min, is our ACK.min smaller than the init right here? Yes, 0 is smaller than 1, so it puts it as a 0, but it should be 1. So one way to fix this, you can just change this, whoops, not that, the min should be numbers ARR at 0. So now our preloaded value is just this first value, not 0, so it can compare it using a value in the array. Okay, so now we get our minimum is 1. Cool, huh? But how do we do the average and the range? Well, remember average, what's the formula for average? Average is sum of numbers divided by amount of numbers. Okay, so sum of this divided by 5. But how can we do that? Well, remember, in reduce, just like map and filter, you get access to the index of the array that you're looping through. Okay, so with that in mind, what I'm going to do is ACK.average. It's at 0, but I'm going to set it plus equal to whatever value that it's looping through. Okay, so by the end, it will have added all of this. Okay, but how do we check if we're at the end? Well, you can say if index is strictly equal to the array's length minus 1. Numbers array.length minus 1. If this is true, that means we're at the last index and our average is now the sum because we've been adding 0 to all of these values, right? And then we're doing this check. So now we can do ACK.average is equal to itself, right? Divided by numbers ARR.length. Okay. And then our range is just max minus min, right? Which we checked the whole array for, and now we're at the last index, so we know that max and min is also correct. So ACK.range is equal to ACK.max minus ACK.min. All right, look, min is 1, average is 3, is that right? This is 15 divided by 5 is 3. Range is 4. 5 minus 1 is 4. Okay. Now, preloading the second argument is really useful, right? Because if we didn't have some of this, let's see what happens, right? It doesn't work. Because if you see right here, this comparison assumes that act.max is already existing, even on the first loop, right? So if we don't have it here, then it doesn't exist. But if we have it, then it will exist and it will work, right? So this makes us have less code in here. You can also make it work this way, but then you're gonna have to check, like we did before in the last video, check if the property exists, and if not, you add it, blah, blah, blah. This is a lot easier, at least to me. Okay, I hope that was helpful. That was my series on reduce. If I do think of something else, I will add more videos, but this is definitely my favorite method.